Boom.
Go.
Folks, welcome back to another great Off Lip radio show. Neil, what show number is this?
641.
Damn, that is 636 more than we thought we would last.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
That's true.
That is true. Well, thank you for tuning in on Santa Cruz Waves, everybody. If you're listening on the podcast, drive safe. 2 hands on the wheel, please.
You can catch the show on YouTube.
Of course.
Directly afterwards, our new thing, YouTube. And then we're on all the podcast platforms like iHeart, Spotify, iTunes. He knows them all.
TuneIn, all those fancy ones.
Yeah, all that.
It's cool that we're on YouTube because I feel like that's sort of a preservation of the shows, and that's fun. And there's a lot of our old shows on YouTube.
Yeah. Many people not around anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So if you do want to go back on YouTube, there's some Steve Caballero, Vince Collier, Sean Barney Barron, like some amazing shows. Willie Morris on YouTube back then, and wow, memories amazing.
And tonight for the third time.
Third time, Neil, can you believe it?
Why do we want? Yeah, what did we ask? What did we want to bid for?
Manu, our
TC, good to see you.
supervisor right here in Pleasure Point, Santa Cruz County. Welcome back for your third time.
Thank you. I wouldn't come back if I didn't have a good time.
Well, we appreciate that. Cause
You don't guarantee a good time this time.
Well,
Bring it on.
yeah, well, Neil, normally we're not big ball busters.
We don't bust balls.
Yeah, but tonight maybe we'll like shake them a little. We don't know. We're gonna try. But welcome back.
Thank you.
Neil and I earlier tonight we were like, wow, Manu's been around a couple of years now.
Yeah.
So is it only been a year?
1 year and 1 quarter.
Does it feel like a couple of years?
It feels more like 2, yeah.
Wow. And what did you win? So people watching, you were in a heated election, and
Right.
what did you win
2020.
by?
I believe it was like 57% to 43. So
It was pretty tight.
substantial.
Yeah, but you
No.
won by that's a big win, but still it wasn't a blowout. Is that a blowout in politics?
That's a pretty big spread.
Is that a big spread? I don't know the percentage.
I mean, not to brag, but yeah, I mean, a lot of time it can be like 52, 48.
Okay.
For
Well,
example. So
and and as we look back, I feel like you ran a pretty good. Your signs were everywhere. Mm-hmm. You were knocking on doors. Anywhere you wanted to speak, you spoke. And I think when you put yourself out like that, it helps you. And congrats.
got to go 110% on any campaign, and it's crazy to think we're coming up on another campaign season right now. Right? I don't think people realize there is a June election coming here, folks. You're going to get a ballot in the mail here in a month.
And what's on that ballot?
Well, the Greenway Initiative.
That's D?
We're going to talk about that.
We will talk about D.
We also
But can I ask
got
you a quick question?
Sure.
What do you think you win by today? If that election was held today?
Depends on who I'm running against. I mean, if I was running against you, Neil, it'd be a tough race.
Well, Neil, yeah, the ladies. I mean, we'd win the women's side. Come on, bro. You nailed it. God, okay. So you would, depending upon who you run against.
Yeah,
Let's get back to the upcoming election. Like, can we talk about Measure D?
sure.
I see signs. Yes on D, no on D. I follow social media. I live on the train tracks. I'm so confused of the propaganda.
There's a lot of it.
There's a lot. Mudslinging.
You get dirty? You got dirty.
I feel like it's dirty because
It's pretty dirty. I mean, I've heard about Measure D signs being taken down and having practically bags of flaming poop on them. I mean, it's nasty.
did you expect it to come to this?
It's a little frightening seeing this amount of misinformation and anger in our community, and like coming from all sides, right? It's like, I mean, it's easy for us here in liberal Santa Cruz to say like, oh no, that's like a Republican conservative problem, right? In national politics, and yet right here in our own county, we're seeing like our own local Democratic Party endorsing the same kind of misinformation.
It's wild. I got involved in a couple of social media things.
Uh-oh.
Again, I live on the tracks.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this is as close to me as anybody.
Yeah.
And not only live in the track, my wife and I have 90 years together in this house on the tracks.
So like 45 years.
Yeah, she was born and raised in the house, and we've been married over 35 years. So my point being is, I would just like chime in, and the bully fest starts.
Yeah.
And guys are calling me names who don't even know me, and I might be the most, like the person who this is most closely when you actually live on the tracks. Now, please let the audience know what Measure D specifically says will happen to those tracks.
Measure D changes the priority in the county's general plan to say that instead of pursuing passenger rail and preserving the tracks for passenger rail, we're going to build a greenway, which is a bike and pedestrian trail. It doesn't remove the possibility of rail ever coming back. That can still happen. It's really just a change in priorities and changing the general plan to acknowledge that. Now, I will say the county's general plan, I mean, it would be law and is substantive, but the tracks are actually owned by the Regional Transportation Commission. And so the Regional Transportation Commission can, it probably should and will acknowledge the county's general plan. I mean, all 5 county supervisors sit on the Transportation Commission, but it's not really bound by it in any way.
Is it going to interfere with people's property, the property owners right now? Is it the eminent domain going to take effect and people are going to lose their property?
Well, if we try to build a trail next to the tracks to do the rail and trail plan, there are some places where we would probably need to do eminent domain.
And can you name any of those places you know of, top of your head?
Around Aptos Village.
Okay. So if the property owner of Aptos Village is going to lose their...
There would be some places, yeah, where we would probably...
Is that a market value of where in eminent domain? Is that how that works?
It is.
Now...
So when that property owner comes to you, what do you say to them? If
that property owner?
Yeah. They're just shit out of luck?
You mean if we try to buy their property?
Yeah.
I mean, basically, like, sorry, well, this is for the public good. Here is what your property's worth, and that's that.
Do you expect the property owner just to drop that and say, okay, that's no problem?
Unfortunately, that's the law. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, so we try to avoid eminent domain cases wherever possible.
Right. Okay.
And I mean, I think that is one argument in favor of doing the Greenway plan and just building on top of where the tracks are. Is we're going to run into a lot less situations like that.
So that is the eminent domain is if we run a train and a trail.
Right.
Now, behind my house, it's a real narrow corridor. Would I be possibly in part of that eminent domain, you think?
I have not seen any single-family homes that are encroaching on the rail corridor. So if we have seen some spots down by 38th where the mobile home parks have built out or pushed the units out into what's owned by the public, the Regional Transportation Commission there. And so, yeah, there's probably 15 mobile homes that are going to have to be moved.
Do you think there's room for a train and a trail?
No.
No.
I do think that's sort of the big lie in our community that we can do both. I mean, we don't really have money for both.
Right.
There's a lot of places where, I mean, theoretically it's possible, but from a cost and engineering perspective, it's not. Aptos Village is the most obvious example because there's effectively 6 bridges there, right? Because there's the North Highway Bridge, the South Highway Bridge, the North Soquel Drive Bridge, the South Soquel Drive Bridge, and then there's Aptos Creek and Valencia Creek. And that's because the rail corridor does this big loop through Aptos Village, so it hits both of those things twice. So, first of all, that's like 6 bridges, which add, $25 to $50 million in cost if you're trying to build a whole separate bridge for bikes and pedestrians. And then, of course, you run into eminent domain issues like we're talking about. So, I mean, and that's just one segment.
Well, I talk about the bridge going over Soquel Creek in Capitola Village all the time. That thing is going to fall down possibly tomorrow.
It needs some work. It needs for bike and pedestrian rehabilitation. It needs about $6 million of work, and to redo it for a train, it needs at least $30 million.
Gee, so you said you've been on walks. You took a stroll the other day with the missus, and you saw work being done on bridges.
Well, it was interesting. We did. My wife and I on Sunday we walked from basically Rio Del Mar all the way to about New Brighton, and there's a lot of spray paint on the tracks, and it looks to me like there's work going in to maintain the tracks currently right now. And I don't know if you know about that, but I was interested to see that they look like they've been pulling weeds along the tracks and cleaning it up.
Yeah, we definitely do maintenance on the tracks. We actually had goats out there to do some of the weeding for us, and we've really tried to scale down The level of pesticide use and herbicides, so that we're not like spraying toxic chemicals behind people's houses. But yeah, we do maintenance. I mean, but I would impress upon you this: that those tracks and the train were built by a private entity at a time when laws like CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, didn't exist. They're done by, again, a private company that could really take a lot of liberties, use cheap labor. Now, as a government entity trying to maintain those, like the cost is just huge, and the regulatory burden is huge.
Right.
And so, it would cost, we estimate, at least $60 million just to repair the tracks so that a freight train could run on them again. And that's just to get things started, right? And then maintaining it afterwards is going to cost you.
Well, can you imagine those salaries? It's one guy working and 6 dudes leaning on shovels. That's a lot of money.
I grew up with trains. I grew up in England, where trains are part of the infrastructure. Have been for many years. And it seems odd where you just think you can just come along and stick a train track or run a train where for what we want to use it for, what you want to use it for, the county wants to use it for. It just doesn't seem there's the room for it or the safety factor for it.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I think with the example of England, it's kind of the same thing as with telephone wires, right? Like we used landlines successfully for many years in the United States because we built that infrastructure at the time that was the technology of the day. But you look at a developing country, they just leapfrog that technology and go right to cell phones. So it's the same with us. The idea that we're going to go backwards and put in some old technology at a huge expense is just nonsensical.
Yeah. Well, electric vehicles, I love watching YouTube channels of weird electric vehicles, and it's crazy what's going on right now. There's a bowling ball that flips open and you stand on it, and you can go 26 miles on that thing.
Well, how come you're not selling those here?
Well, I was like, whoa, that was mind blowing. There's a bowling ball, you can carry it like a bowling ball, set it down, it flips open, you stand on it, you're gone.
Yeah.
I feel like the potential for
huge.
electric.
Yeah.
I know as a fact in this community, electric powered bicycles has probably grown 300% in the last 2 years.
I wish I knew. I think it's at least that.
And,
but I got an e-bike. I love this thing.
Yeah, your bike's amazing. You ride it every day, right?
Every day. It is the perfect vehicle for Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
To me, I feel like we haven't brought that to the table with what we're trying to do with this potential bike path, because I think more people could commute up and down that. Because my theory with the train is, when it drops you off in the middle of nowhere, what do you do?
Right.
Because that train doesn't really stop anywhere where people work.
Right. You've got to get. Even if you get off at the boardwalk, you've got to walk 10 minutes to downtown.
That's the thing about being in England. You've got the bus routes, you've got the bus routes, you've got the underground, you've got everything around that railway track. You always are able to get somewhere. Here, if you want to go downtown, you're going to have to get dropped off at the boardwalk and walk.
Yeah.
There's no bus for it. Or you can Uber, or you can take a skateboard or an electric bike.
Yeah, the connections are not great.
No.
And it's not really in the major commercial areas. But that's planning for light electric vehicles is a big part of what the Greenway plan just does better. So let me just give you some numbers from the section in front of Seabright, right? From the San Lorenzo River Trestle to 17th Avenue is the segment that's under study right now. And it's the first time we've actually done a comparison of what's being called the interim trail plan or the Greenway plan versus the rail and trail plan, which is being called the ultimate trail because it's the ultimate configuration where we'd want the trail if we put it on the train. In any case, basically it's about $18 million to build the Greenway plan for a 16-foot wide trail, whereas the rail and trail plan is $33 million to build a 9 to 12-foot wide trail. So significantly narrower. And that cost is probably going to go up because you're talking about tons of retaining walls and viaducts, which are like, bridges and stuff. Whereas the Greenway plan, actually, we're going to take out, it was originally designed with some fences on both sides, which are not really needed. They're going to come out. So it'll probably come down to like 16 million. It's basically 2x the cost, one versus the other. And you're getting a wider trail, which makes it easier to accommodate these fast-moving e-bikes and e-bowling balls.
Right, exactly. Well, let's get back to the Measure D, because what you said earlier, I just want to reiterate. It doesn't eliminate the potential for future rail. Is that what you were saying?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Rail banking has been done successfully all over the country, and trains actually have come back in some cases, like Denton, Texas. and the Purple Line in Maryland outside of D.C. are both examples of that. But
But they have more room than we do. We have no room. We're a small town, and we just don't have the room anymore.
Well,
it seems
we
like
don't have the population to support the cost
Right.
of running a train, is what it comes down to.
Right.
But I would say this. There's a lot of fear of loss, right? The pro rail side is playing on people's fear of loss. You're going to lose this train. It's never going to come back. First of all, the train, we've already lost it. It's not running today, and there's no business case for it to come back. What we actually could lose if Measure D fails and is a complete trail. We're not going to. It's going to be so expensive to build a trail next to the tracks. We're going to run out of money after Aptos. It's not going to get down to La Selva. It's not going to get all the way to Watsonville. And so it just frustrates the heck out of me that people who are pro to rail are saying, "Oh, well, the equity. We need to help people in Watsonville." It's like we're not going to be able to build the trail for the people in Watsonville if we don't change the plan.
The same people who don't care there's 8 million Amazon trucks running around Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
Right.
How are you getting your toilet paper?
Exactly.
Right? Is it coming on a train?
My father was a railway expert. He ran the Golden Gate Bridge for 20 years. He was responsible for getting the railway right-of-way from Sausalito all the way up to Ukiah. Mm-hmm. And when he passed away a few years ago, but he went out in my backyard and he saw the tracks and he goes, "There will never be people on trains on these tracks. The liability will be insane because it's dangerous." I mean, that's basically what he said. Mm-hmm. Is that what the information that you are getting? Is it ever possible to have people and trains on that corridor? Because I feel like the pro track people are saying that that's going to be the case, that there'll be kids in strollers going up and down there, and then trains going at a commuter speed, not a tourist speed. Right. That's two different speeds. What can you explain to me what really can happen? It's theoretically possible, but I don't think it makes for a pleasant walking and biking experience with your kids or your dog who's now running across the trail because he's scared by the train coming up behind. The train is going to have to go slower, and it's not going to be fast enough to compete with the e-bowling ball, or or to compel you to get out of your car. So it's interesting hearing it from the words of an old railman. And I talked to a guy who worked for the VTA, the Valley Transit Authority, and over the hill. They put in a train network over there, and he was also very anti-rail in Santa Cruz County. He's like, "Look, man, how are you going to incentivize people to get out of their cars? Where are people going to park their cars when they come to get on your train? And how, this is to the safety point, how are you going to prevent people from hitting your train with their cars?" Right. So if it's trying to move through town quickly, there's going to be accidents.
That VTA losing ridership?
Oh, the mayor of San Jose, Sam Ricardo, called it like colossally bad system. It's right. Yeah, it's not doing so well.
Can we beat that horse to death right there?
Well, I think the parking lot thing's interesting because I know originally they said they wanted to put a station at J Street Park, and I imagine again, where are you going to park your cars? We lose our soccer field for car parking. There's no parking down there, so wherever they're going to. That's a huge question that I think is very important.
Well, the neighbors there have already stopped commuters from going through down J Street.
You can't between 3 and 6.
Yeah.
But my next question is, and then we can put this horse to rest. We're going to vote soon on Measure D. Win or lose, what happens after the election? Are we going to settle this? Is it done?
Well, there's a lot of important financial questions coming to the Regional Transportation Commission. And it's really about what project we apply to the state for funding for in Aptos. You may or may not know this, but we've got funding to complete the auxiliary lane project on the highway from Soquel Drive all the way to State Park Drive in Aptos.
Another lane.
God bless America.
We're starting construction on the auxiliary lane between Soquel Drive and 41st this summer, and then next year we'll start construction on 41st to State Park Drive. Now, to complete the project, to get all the way to Freedom, which is where the bottleneck is, we need basically to apply for that last section and to get funding from the state. It's going to be somewhere between 100 and 150 million bucks. Okay. It's a big ask. We're talking about 500 million roughly available statewide. So and because the trail goes over the highway twice, we basically are going to have to tell them what project we plan on doing then. So in any case, we're going to have to take a pretty hard look at the numbers, see what we can competitively ask for,
Right.
and how much of a local match we can put up to be as competitive as possible.
Let's talk about Portola Drive. Can we talk about Portola Drive?
One more thing with the trail.
How do you
Just
know?
one more thing. Can we eliminate some bridges and you like hit roads and go around them, like the Soquel Creek or some of these places?
Oh, right.
If we do a trail,
Right.
is that part of what possibly could happen?
Well, that features more in the rail and trail plan because there's some bridges you just can't do both. I mean, you mentioned Soquel Creek, which is the Capitola Trestle there. You can't put both people and a train on that trestle. So the current plan is to go through Capitola Village. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'd love to ride my bike across the Capitola Trestle and take some
Great
selfies.
view.
Well, you
It's
avoid the hole. You
amazing.
have to avoid the holes in it, though.
It's
Well,
it's a little dicey.
Like I said, we could totally refurbish that baby for about $6 million,
Okay.
and it'd be as safe as possible and new surface,
Rails
Okay.
and the whole thing.
Yeah.
right.
Well, railings, not
railings, right, yeah, railings, yeah,
for
yeah.
bikes and pedestrians.
Yeah, 'cause
What
railings
happened?
wide.
What happened out here with the bike lane whole thing? That whole thing that just was. It was
Oh.
there. It was there, and then it was gone. People throwing things.
I'm
picking,
glad you asked,
picking,
Neil.
shit, picking
I'm glad.
stuff up. What happened? What happened?
Well,
And
okay.
what's
So,
supposed to happen and what did happen?
and what's going to happen?
Okay, what's going? That's
Right.
perfect. Yeah.
Segue.
So, I mean, obviously the rail corridor is not the only bike and pedestrian trail in the county, and we want to improve the infrastructure overall, right? And so when I came into office, there was a plan to that was vetted by the community to bring Portola down to 3 lanes. It's called a road diet, and of course, East Cliff, which becomes Portola, is also 3 lanes, so it's not the craziest idea.
3 lanes.
Right. So 1 lane of travel in both directions and a center turn lane.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. So seeing that plan, I thought, okay, let's try it out. Let's do a pop up. Right. Or basically,
Yeah,
for the 30 days, as you
right.
said. And we had some money from the state to actually execute that pop up. So we did, and of course people hated it, as you rightly pointed out. And I think the biggest problem was because there's multiple stop signs there. It basically increased the queue length. Right. Cars had to stack longer to wait to get through those stop signs.
Right.
So we realized if there were ever to be a road diet like that, we'd really need to put in stoplights. Now, I believe in the build, measure, learn approach, right? So we learn from that. People don't want to go down to 3 lanes anytime soon, so we're actually going to do a resurfacing out here on Portola this summer. We're going to keep it 4 lanes and just put some more green paint and better sidewalks out there, so that it's more bike and pedestrian friendly, but without reducing.
Is the reason we're
car
doing it
costs.
in the heavy tourist season of summer?
Good question.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering. I'm like, wow.
I'll talk to our public works director if we can push it out to. I mean, what would be good? September, October? It's not.
Well, with climate change, you can
that's
do
the
it any
problem.
time of the year, right? I mean,
October is still summer.
It's still
around
summer,
here.
I know.
Still getting visitors.
well, it is getting busier, and obviously people are discovering Pleasure Point. I mean, it's a slice of paradise. But to resurface that in summer, I mean, when AT&T's out there doing a phone line, it's a cluster. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes, and we'll learn from that as well.
Yeah.
And then
well,
the bridge across the yacht harbor. That's another bone of contention for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, well, that's a city project. I've written to them saying like, hey guys, couldn't you delay this? Because I mentioned the Highway 1 project. It's probably starting later this year. Then the Murray Street Bridge, that's one of 3 ways across town. I mean, and from what I'm hearing right now, it would just be you could there would be no eastbound traffic. You could only go west. I mean, they're going to try to.
Oh, do half and half? That's the plan. Is it?
I don't. That would be smart, right? Since there's demand is mostly one
better
direction
than
all
nothing.
morning and night. But that's going to have an impact. Then we're also resurfacing Soquel Drive, which is those are the 3 main ways across town, right? I mean, Murray Street / East Cliff,
Right.
Highway 1, and Soquel Drive. So we're improving all of them, which is great. But the timing has just been,
You know, it's going to be the year of road rage.
Well, it's a great year to get an e-bowling ball.
Yes.
And there's actually a ton of rebates available for electric
bikes?
bikes and stuff. Yeah, really, but like federal from our local it's 3CE, what is it, Central Coast Community Energy. So there's, I think Ecology Action's got some, so it's a good year to buy an e-bike.
Well, as we said earlier,
So you
electric bikes are taking off.
But
right?
you apply to them for a rebate on when you go get a bicycle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know I haven't tried it myself, so I don't know the exact details.
You can
But yeah,
look
you
it up.
basically,
Right.
you can get one and then get some money back.
Looking back over the last 12 months, would you still run for this office?
I would. Yeah, I'm having a good time.
You are?
On the whole. Yeah.
Okay.
And,
Biggest success so far is?
I knew you'd ask me that
So
question.
you didn't.
Yeah, I did. Well, I guess what I've found is you don't always have the biggest successes with the policy, right? I mean, I
Right.
think one of the most important policies I worked on is the tiny homes ordinance. And I introduced it the first month I got in there, and they're still working on it, right? It kind of got stuck in all the things staff has to do. And if I could do it again, I would have been a little bit more precise in my direction. But I think one big win has been seeing the Vets Village project come together on Highway 9. So this is a project for homeless veterans, and it's going to be really community-centric because it's taken over an old motel, and so they're going to start with 16 veterans in there, hope to build it up to 40 over time, and it's just, I was out there for an opening barbecue the other weekend, and there's a lot of hope and excitement about that, and hopefully it can be a model for other projects throughout the county.
Have you been
great.
able to do stuff in office? Have you been able to move stuff around, make some headway on your work?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does make a big difference who's sitting in the seat in terms of like just the county's overall approach to things. I mean, we're coming up on some big decisions with the sustainability update. I mean, we're undertaking the biggest change to the general plan in 25 years to try to enable a little bit more housing in this county, right? I mean, which is a huge crisis. We can talk about more. But will basically allow a little bit more infill development and would rezone some parts of Portola Drive here, some of the old car lots and
Like my lot out back? That's
not
gonna be
yours,
redeveloped?
no, further down, more past town and country there, but to make them, residential zoning housing.
Okay. Are we going to talk homelessness, TC? We're going down that avenue? I guess we have to. Huh?
It's
We've been beating that horse to death for a while. Huh.
well. First off, congrats to the vets housing, because I feel like our country has let a lot of vets down,
Definitely.
and to hear that it's been part of your when Neil says what you look back, what's the success? To have that up there with the cap and the that's good, and I appreciate that. Some people say that there's some. I've just heard from some friends that there's money involved. Oh, Manu has guys that are. Can you explain how your philosophy and your politics work? And is there anybody that's in your pockets? Just because I hear this stuff.
Right.
They think that there's some alter motivation to Manu and what he's doing in politics. Your aspirations. You're just.
I'm not getting any kickbacks from anybody. No.
There's not houses in Fiji that you're.
No. I mean, my family lives in Tahiti. I'm going to go visit them, so I don't need anyone to gift me any houses in Fiji. No. I mean, in fact, the reporting requirements are super strict. I mean, you can see my Form 700s where I have to report any gift over $50 that anybody gives me. And no, I don't have any ulterior motivation.
It goes that new skateboard you're going to give him.
I can't.
Well, I mean, you can. I just have to report it.
Okay. Oh, you can report it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well.
Yeah. And if it's over $400, then I can't vote for any of your projects. I'm going to recuse
Well, I have no
myself.
projects going on right now.
Well, even trash cans.
Oh, well, that's true. Well, and that's interesting. For the people who looked, you're very approachable, and I know you put yourself out there. But just earlier, I was saying how we have a need for a trash can here in Pleasure Point, and you're like, I'm going to get with the county and figure out what's going on out here, and I appreciate that. And so people who are watching, I guess what I should say is don't be afraid to approach you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And your office, they can call and leave a message. And
Yep. Best way to reach out is to our email address first.district@santacruzcounty.us because that goes to the whole office.
Mm-hmm.
So I have an ungodly number of meetings that I have to be representing your representative in all day long. But got a few analysts that are there, and that'll help like elevate issues fastest and make sure people get.
And
what
just
they
to know, real quick, people watching, I've emailed you 3 times pissed off as just like a concerned
Yep.
constituent. Your office got back to me all 3 times very quickly.
All right, I'm
Yeah,
glad to hear that.
and so I just want to let you
You're
know.
a big name, TC. You're
Well, I'm not a big name. I'm a big complainer. But I mean, I just want to say, so if somebody's watching and you're concerned what's going on here, I reached out to you 3 times, and people from your office responded 3 times.
I'm glad to hear that, because at the end of the day, customer service, helping constituents, that's what matters the most.
Right. Well, I feel like that's what makes you a better person for the position, is that you do respond, whether it's good or bad.
The needle, TC. Where are we going with homeless? Where's the needle going with the homeless situation in this town? I know that I know you're dealing with a lot, but we'd like to find out what you're dealing with and what's happening, what's going on on this show.
It's just a gigantic problem. You know, I wish I could do a lot more. I mean, we're making progress in the right direction. I will say that. There's more and more state and federal money becoming available to deal with the issue. But as I was saying,
But that's it's good to have the money, right? But what can you do with the money once you have it in your back pocket? And how much of that money can you use? We talked about that a little bit.
well, right. I mean, so even with all the extra money we've been getting recently, we still only have we estimate about half of what's needed. I mean, the fundamental crisis just comes down to how expensive housing is in our community. I mean, do you know it takes an average of 3.4 jobs to afford one 2-bedroom apartment?
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, it's insane. And so we are seeing family homelessness increasing, senior homelessness increasing as a result of this crazy housing market. And the people you see in encampments, that's only about 1/4 of people who are homeless. And so, with trying to build permanent housing over there on Park Avenue, whenever you try to build housing for people who are homeless, I mean, people think of the folks who are in the encampments, but there's a lot more people who need housing. So, I mean, we're going to have to keep making significant investments. I mean, the fact that the state and federal government are putting up more money regularly helps. It's challenging right now because there's so many. This funding is so fragmented. We have 40 different grants for homelessness that we're managing. So it's not like we can just say, you know what, we're going to take all the money and we're going to build this eco village out here in the country, and everyone's going to go there. I mean, if I could, I would, but because the money's in 40 different pots, it's pretty hard to put together.
That's 40 different chiefs that have different requirements for their money.
Well, somewhere in the state or with the state or feds, it's 40 different programs that are being managed. Yeah.
Does that take all your? I mean, that takes time, right?
It doesn't take all of my time, but it does take a lot of staff time at the county. Mm-hmm. And you had asked me if I had any aspirations, to go on to state or federal government. Well, I'm not so sure about that because it would mean leaving beautiful Santa Cruz for most of the week. But I would seriously consider a statewide initiative to change the way funding works and keep more of it local.
It sounds like you're trying to fix broken glass. You've got 40 different grants, and you're trying to fix broken glass by gluing it together with 40 pieces of glass.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Can you just, of those 40, can you mention what a few of those are? It's what different types? Why is there not some sort of system to get them together?
Yeah, I mean, we have funding. We have funding for emergency shelter. We have funding for rapid rehousing for people to get them rental money. We have funding for mental health, other kinds of health outreach.
Addiction
addiction services. I mean, you name it. There's so.
Now, you have it. Does the public know you have it? Does the public can apply for this, for that funding?
I mean, a lot of it is money that either nonprofits or we as the county have to apply for. I mean, the county applies to the state for funding all day long, right? And so as I was saying, if you look at all the money the county spends, about $1 billion flows through county government every year, but we really only have complete discretion over $160 million of that. And all the rest is grants that have this or that requirement.
Well, the good news is it's not just our community. It's every community in the country is dealing with these problems.
Oh, certainly with homelessness. I mean, Santa Cruz, we do have one of the highest per capita rates of homelessness in the state. And the state, of course, is pretty much the highest in the country. And we also have a lot of issues with funding in general. We were very limited by Prop 13, and we get one of the lowest property tax rates. Only 13 cents on the dollar of property taxes you pay go back to the county.
Wow. How frustrating, right?
Super frustrating. Yeah, no, welcome to the county. You have no money, you can't fire anyone, and you need to build absolute consensus to pass anything.
Wow. And you still have a smile on your face,
Hey,
right?
Because I'm here talking to you guys.
Well, that's great. But I mean, it's this is not a cakewalk.
No.
What you got yourself into. Half the people are not going to be happy with your decisions, and you're trying to do what's best for our county. And is there ever a winner?
Well, you're not going to. Homelessness is not going away, and there's never going to be an end to it. There's never going to be an end game to homelessness.
The goal is to reduce the impact and to manage it as best as possible, and to bring down the total number of people who are homeless from 1 year to the next.
Wow, that's a bold thing to take on because I don't know the answer.
Well, we've had a lot of people come on the show, including yourself and a lot of other politicians, and they just, there's been no solution. It's just, shaking
money,
their
right?
head.
Is money really the answer?
More money would make a big difference, and building more housing.
But where are you going to build them at?
Well, I've seen there's a big increase in ADUs right now.
Yeah.
I know. The last time we spoke, it was going to be easier, right, to do these things, which could really solve a big portion of these problems because the ADUs are smaller and more affordable. Any changes since the last time we talked on sliding those through county?
Yeah, we definitely moved it to a ministerial permitting process. We've made it so you don't have to fix the sidewalk when you're putting in an ADU. We've created just a simple checklist for design guidelines. So it's definitely gotten easier. We're creating some pre-approved plans for ADUs that you could just be like, yeah, I'll take that one. Okay, pre-approved.
Wow. So people watching who have a home here in Santa Cruz and because it's a good investment. It increases the property value. You could bring in a little revenue. You could potentially house some people that would really appreciate it and be good neighbors. So it's good to hear that it's happening. I spoke to a friend of mine, Craig, who lives over on 35th Avenue. He said there's 2 ADUs going in over there right now.
Yep, 2 ADUs went in on one property right next door to me over on around 7th Avenue.
Give me a typical day for you. Tomorrow morning's going to look like what? Give me a typical day for Manu Koenig. If I'm lucky, if there's not a 3 or 4 hour meeting scheduled at the beginning of my day, right? So, for example, Thursday we got the RTC meeting. That's 3 or 4 hours. If not, there's usually a few different meetings. I don't have my day memorized at the top of my head. I can pull it up, but for example, today met with the Public Works Director and someone representing numerous property owners throughout Pleasure Point that had specific issues they wanted to work through, so that really helped us talk through some of the changes that we need to make in streamlining permitting. Then in the afternoon, I was talking with the Parks Director and a nonprofit about potential uses for or how to create an agriculturally farm-friendly park in the county. Make a few calls here and there, talk to our new fire chief, Nate Armstrong, about the potential for more people getting involved with hand crews, which turns out you want a fair amount of training. So just throwing a Joe Schmo who's had 2 hours of training at a fire is not a good idea. The people last year lost their homes in the fires. Are they able to get an easier permitting process through the county?
Great question.
Today,
That's been so hard. I have a friend who lost a home up there, and he's like, I can't rebuild.
It's been really slow, and I'm sorry. I mean, it's not like we've tried to make changes to make it faster, and we're continuing to. We're creating a unified permit center right now, which will really make permitting more of a one-stop shop, and where you've got people who actually know everything that you need to do next and can help move you through the process better. But a big part was just we had to do all the cleanup on the sites, right? I mean, and then they had to be cleared. Okay, there's no more toxic burn stuff here. And then there's the whole issue around mudslides, right? So we had to we did like a general countywide study to be able to clear some of those sites from mudslides. In some cases, if people want to move forward with the rebuilding, they've got to acknowledge the risks associated with that. And I mean, now we're processing permit applications as fast as possible.
That's not fast enough for people that are living up there.
I understand. I mean, they're out of their home, and it's just really tough.
You can imagine their sadness and frustration.
I
it's,
can.
It's super tough.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have a friend who's been like, oh my gosh, I can't rebuild my house. It's so sad, and that makes sense. What you're saying, there's some things that safety issues that you have to have done, but it's tough on some people that I know. It's sad.
Well, he should talk to his supervisor. It's not me.
No, I know, right? Lucky dog.
So we're going to vote for you again when?
Oh, not till 2024.
Are you announcing it right now?
Oh boy, I don't know. No, I'm not.
That's a breaking news, Neil.
We've got China. Jimmy Pedetta said he was still running. He was running.
He announced it right on our show.
Jimmy's got to run every other year.
I know, but he announced it right here on the
What do you got left? 3 years left? You got 3 years left?
Pretty much, yeah.
Are you going to defend the crown? Is that?
Well, I'll tell you this much. If I do run again, I will be the supervisor, the most senior supervisor of my second term.
Right,
most likely. Most likely. The rest of the board will turn over, and it'll be...
Are you supporting Shebra or Justin on their election?
I haven't endorsed.
You haven't? Are you going to? Would you do it tonight and endorse on this wonderful show?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, he's smooth, isn't he? We're trying. I know.
You can let him out the door.
Maybe not.
Have you guys endorsed someone in the district?
That's
We
not
haven't
my
yet.
district.
No,
Yeah.
we try and stay Switzerland.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, sometimes.
We try and stay Switzerland. Yeah. We give Jimmy our support.
Now, earlier you were saying that there's children in your future and like things coming on.
Yeah.
If in the future you weren't doing what you're doing, would you go back? What would be your aspirations outside of politics?
Well, I'm really interested in building more affordable housing, and especially how that'll impact our ability to adapt to the climate crisis. I see all the technologies coming online right now, whether it's like on-site water recycling or like vertical farming, like greenhouses that are closer to urban centers. If we could do more of that, that would reduce packaging waste and vehicle miles traveled, food miles. So that's really where my interest and my passion is, and I would try to work in that space, whether it's helping with different jurisdictions with policy or something else related to it. If I wasn't,
Your life is you're going to make the world a better place.
I'd like to.
That's cool. Good stuff, huh?
Can you demonstrate to us, okay, when you started off in that day one, the slope? There was no slope; it was flat. Mm-hmm. What's the hill look like you're climbing each day today? Is it pretty steep?
It's I'd say it's 45 degrees.
45 degrees.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
all right.
Still pretty steep, but I feel like I can get up it.
And do you feel like you're getting somewhere?
I do. I feel like I've after just over a year
Yeah.
now, I kind of know the ropes and can plan my time and the office's time more proactively and really have a better sense of what we can accomplish.
Would that be your legacy, do you think, if you accomplish it with ADUs or homelessness or Botola Drive or...
I mean, hopefully there's a long list, right? I mean, even just like process improvements for the office of the Board of Supervisors. I mean, we just got some new project management software in that will make a big difference in terms of our work day to day. I mean, ultimately, I think we need more staff time in the first district. I mean, as I mentioned, like your friend should call his supervisor in the third or the fifth district.
Right.
But this is actually the hardest supervisor position in District 1 because 80% of constituents are in the unincorporated area. That means they're relying on county planning, county parks, county police, the sheriff,
Right.
County public works. Whereas if you live in the city, and like District 3, 90% of the constituents live in the city of Santa Cruz. So they all have city services for that. So basically I have to help a lot more people with a lot more things.
How many people contact you a day, do you think? Like reaching out to you for help, questions, opinions?
I would have to ask the rest of the analysts what our daily intake volume is, but I mean it's somewhere around 100 contacts. Yeah.
And every one of them gets an answer? I mean, I got an answer.
I mean, yeah, we gotta at least tell people, you know. I mean, maybe if you keep asking about the same thing, you know, 50 times, we'll be like, okay,
we talked
we gave
about
you
it.
an answer, and that's it. But otherwise, yeah, people deserve to hear back.
Good show, TC.
Well, you know, what I always like about you, Manu, is you're not afraid to sit in front of a camera and get grilled. You know,
We get
and
grilled.
no, but we're easy. But you've always made an appearance, and I give you credit for that. And like I said to the folks watching, I've reached out 3 times. You didn't know, but your office got back to me 3 times, and I was really impressed by that. You're never gonna win. You're gonna try. And hopefully the people overall will approve of your trying. And that's all you can ask for,
Can
right?
I ask one more thing about the homeless situation that happened on Seabright with Novak and that, right? He complained about it. What happened on Seabright there? Was it last year?
Well, I think there was going to be a camping site
there on
or
Seabright,
something, right?
Seabright, correct?
Yeah, there was concern that this is a city issue.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Because Seabright is in the city of Santa Cruz. So there's concern that, like, by defining certain places, like downtown, as no camping zones, they were implicitly saying that places like at Seabright were camping zones.
Okay, all right.
And that plan ultimately didn't move forward.
No.
Do we have a lack of camping? Is that the problem, do you think? Because it seems like they camp down behind the county building really well. Do we need more camping?
What we need is more designated areas for
Organized
for
camping.
organized camping, rather than
On the freeway here, under the 45th Avenue.
than just tacitly accepted areas for unorganized camping.
Right.
Because I mean, the cost of all the trash people are bringing into the riparian areas and to try to clean that up is huge.
It's insane.
And I mean, I've been working with the sheriff department to be as proactive as possible to get people out of where they shouldn't be. But it would be helpful if we had more prescribed places.
And just real quick on that same subject, it seems to me, being here for many, many, many years, it seems to have maybe doubled in the last 10 years. You know, I think maybe that'd be a conservative estimate.
Yeah.
If that happens again in the next 10 years, is the county prepared for that or thought about how much housing's not getting cheaper, life is not getting cheaper. If it's doubled in the last 10 years and it doubles again in the next 10 years, are we ready for that?
Well, clearly we're not ready for a doubling. I mean, we're still just trying to deal with what we've got today. I do think it's going to start to come down with more resources available. I mean, certainly the housing crisis is part of it, but so is the opioid epidemic, and I feel like we're starting to turn the corner on that a little bit, and that there's less prescriptions going out. We're suing both the opioid manufacturers, and looks damn likely to actually get some money back from them. From that, and so I feel like we're going to start headed in the right direction. That we're kind of at the high water mark right now.
You know, the problem right now, fentanyl. It's tearing our community apart, and to me, that's a bigger problem than a lot of what's going on with some of the opiate stuff right now. Is they're slicing fentanyl and everything right now. So.
Manu, we're going to let you get back to the missus. Let you get back to your wife.
Yeah.
Well, you can ride the bike home before dark.
And we want to
Appreciate that.
thank you for coming back on the show. We will have you back again for number 4.
And you ride your bike every day,
Just about.
weather permitting sometimes.
Yeah.
And so going back to the rail trail, you would be not only our supervisor, but you'd also be a customer of this trail, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what I still to this day I have a dream of a garage door on my back fence.
Yeah.
And,
That'd be pretty sweet. That little bat cave.
I want a bat cave, and I want an electric bike. And so thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you for taking on this position, because I know it's tough, and you're trying hard. And I think anyone in the county, we could only hope that our elected politicians try as hard as you. So,
Thanks, Manu.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Yep.
Neil, what do we got next week?
Blowing out wetsuit. The guys from blowing out wetsuit.
Right here on Portola, right in front of the new project. They're gonna get fresh pavement out there. Okay, well, thank you everyone for tuning in. T Fox, thanks as always. We'll see you next week on the Off the Lip Radio Show. Good night, everybody.